Hey YouTube, kind of an impromptu video. I know I'm in my garage again, my little haven. But I've been watching the Alex Jones trial, the Connecticut one, not the Texas one. Which, if you haven't seen, is well, they found him guilty before the trial even started. So basically, they're saying you're already guilty. We're just going to figure out how much money you owe. But by the way, when you come on the stand, you're limited on what you can and can't say. You can't talk about Hillary Clinton. You can't talk about interviews that were done about you or with you. And you're super limited on anything you can talk about or bring up. But the team that's suing you, they can talk about whatever they want. And they even have a federal or an FBI agent who is there, who's coming up on the stand and talking about how horrible it was the day of the event. Now, we're talking about damages on how Alex Jones mentally damaged them from speaking. So, he's not responsible for the shooting. He didn't do that. And for YouTube, I'm not saying the shooting didn't happen. I'm not saying that any conspiracies. I'm simply dwelling on facts about the shooting. But two things really came up so far in this trial that kind of got me shaking my head and scratching it at the same time. So first off, the FBI agent swore in open court that he happened to be up the road in Connecticut doing a field exercise training at a range in one of the local police stations where they're doing training ops because he was a SWAT officer. So that he got a phone call, one of his medics got a phone call, and they were there in no later than 40 minutes from the time the shooting happened. I find that difficult to believe because I looked at where he was on the map versus where Newtown was. And anyone who's ever been in law enforcement, anyone who's ever been in the military, realizes it's called communication lag. So let's say shooting happens. So someone at school calls 911. 911 is going to call the police. Police are going to show up. And they're not automatically going to call the feds. That's not how it works. They're going to show up and they're going to like, wow, there's a lot going on here. We need backup. So they're going to put, a bulletin out. Everyone show up. So they're going to call the sheriffs, the feds, anyone they get their hands on if they're limited on resources. So at that point, they didn't get a call, but they got a call for medic support, which is why they called their medic there. But when they do that, it's not like they're calling directly to the medic. They got a call to the FBI headquarters. So you got 5 minutes for the cops to show up. It may be even shorter in a small town, but regardless, it's going to be 3 to 5 minutes. They have to figure out what's going on. They got to call it to their dispatch. Their dispatch has to call it out to the sheriffs, the state troopers, the FBI, the whole shlong of all the people. And then those people have to dispatch. They have to call up their individual people to get them out. So you're looking at a dwell time, a minimum from the time the shooting happens to the time that those phone calls are going out to individuals of 10 to 15 minutes. It's which is actually really quick. So, and I'm accounting that because it's a small town. Okay, so I'm smoking, screw you, whatever. It's been a long day. So 10 to 15 minutes, let's call it 10 to give him some time. Now, he was 53 minutes away, and I looked at that with zero traffic. They asked him how fast he was driving. He said, I was driving really fast. Well, they had a convoy of vehicles. Even if they're doing like 100 miles per hour, the fastest they're going to get there with no traffic is about 40 minutes. So now we're looking at 50 minutes. Well, he also testified that there was 5 minutes from the time they got the call to get all their gear, to put it in the car before they start rolling. So you're looking at a minimum of 55 minutes. So in all actuality, it was probably from the time the shooting happened to the time they showed up was about an hour. There is no possible way. When you roll your own cigarettes, they're a little tight. Now I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying he didn't tell the truth on the stand. That he was there within no later than 40 minutes from the time the shooting happened. At the bare minimum, from where he was, there is no way he got there in less than an hour unless he was already en route to Newtown, which is a tiny ass little town, when the shooting was happening without communication from it. So that's a big lie, number one. Number two, no one ever really talks about Adam Lenz's mother. Now everyone looks at Adam Lenza and the fact that he was basically off grid for like 9 months before any of this happened. Now, she was a divorcee, and she was a elementary school teacher in a small town in Connecticut. Now, I don't know if any of you guys know the demographics of school teachers, especially elementary school teachers in a liberal state like Connecticut, especially in small towns like that. But about 98% of the time, they're going to be Democrats. They're going to be liberals, or at least they're going to be very liberal conservatives. So they're painting the picture. You read anything, you do any Google search on her, it's going to come up as, oh, she had her NRA certification, which just means she went to a range at one point or another. And she was a huge gun collector, and she was all about guns and this and that. And she would leave her gun case open for kid around, which none of that really is kosher, because there's a bunch of information we have, verified information, that she complained about her son's mental illness and his violent tendencies. So if you got a mom who's got guns, who's supposed to be this NRA compliant person who knows about firearms, who's a gun nut, why would she leave firearms around a kid who has known mental health issues, who is known to be violent? Why would she leave them around in an unlocked container when she's not home, or even when she is home? So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense on that one. Another one, the only weapons that she owned was a .22 rifle and an AR-15. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen gun buybacks. I've seen quite a few gun buybacks for liberals coming to turn guns in. And usually, a lot of .22 rifles, but then it'll be like little .38 revolvers, little .32 ACPs, little .25 autos. Might even get a 9mm from time to time. You do not see these people turning in their AR-15s. You know why? Because they don't buy them. Liberals, for the most part, do not own AR-15s or AK-47s or stuff like that because they think they're evil guns. They think they're stupid, not to mention the fact that if you have them, you have to have them registered in Connecticut even before this happened. So they're trying to say that this liberal elementary school teacher who lived in a small town and taught little kids owned an AR-15, and not like one of the neutered ones from the ban period we had in the 90s. Ooh, that was rough. But she owned this AR-15 with plenty of magazines, with plenty of ammunition, and she just left it out for her kid with known mental health issues and anger, aggression, and violent problems to have access to. Now, the funny part, though, is even though he had the AR-15, he killed his mom with the .22 rifle. So if he had an AR-15, why did he kill the .22 rifle? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But for me, that just sounds weird. So then you got this kid, which supposedly they seen him and his mom go to the range multiple times, which multiple could just be 2. So once again, she's a liberal school teacher, teaches elementary, and she's taking her kid, who has mental health issues and anger aggression problems, to the range to shoot firearms. Now, I have plenty of friends who are gun owners, and they have kids with, let's just say, issues. Kids have anger issues, mental health issues, things of that nature. And they are very smart about keeping their guns locked in very sealed containers. They do not bring their kids to the range, so they don't let their kids access to their firearms. And they understand that until they have their issues under control, they do not allow them to have access to them or know how to use them, because that is unsafe. So unless this was just the dumbest woman ever known to man taking her kid who is mentally unstable to the range to let him shoot guns and teach him how to use them, I think that's a little weird. That's a little bit weird. Not quite understanding that. But another fun part is, if you look at it, she was receiving $290,000 a year in alimony on top of her teaching. So it's not like she was broke. So she's a woman making, basically $300,000 a year, plus her school salary, whatever work she did, and she's making that kind of money I don't know. A lot of this isn't tracking with me. Once again, I'm not saying this didn't happen. I'm just saying there's a lot of issues in this whole narrative that they're bringing up in this case that just doesn't make a lot of sense. How an FBI agent can get to a shooting with an impossible amount of time from where he was. The fact that they just happened to be up the road doing a training day when this happened and get there in such quick timing that's basically impossible. That a woman who's a liberal school teacher owns a .22 rifle and then steps up to an AR-15, nothing in between, just the two rifles, .22 and an AR-15, kind of a big jump there, and leaves it out. She's pretty affluent. I mean, she's probably making $500,000 a year, which in a town like that, it's a pretty rich little town, pretty secluded from everyone else. But I don't know. That's my thoughts. So sorry this video is of low quality, but feel free to leave your comments, questions, or concerns in the comments section. Once again, YouTube, I am not contesting the validity of what happened at Sandy Hook. I am simply debating certain things that may have been brought up in open court. Till then, have a good one.